Right now, as you listen to this, there's a computer sitting in a laboratory that just solved a calculation in 5 minutes that would take our most powerful supercomputers longer than the universe has existed to complete. Not millions of years, not billions, but 10 septillion years, a number so vast it makes the age of galaxies look like a brief afternoon nap. And here's what makes this even more extraordinary. This isn't science fiction. This happened last month. The quantum revolution isn't coming. It's here. Welcome to another journey into the mysteries that shape our reality. I'm your guide through the quantum landscape that's quietly rewriting the rules of what's possible. If you're new here, this is where we explore the profound questions that sit at the intersection of science and human experience, where the abstract becomes deeply personal, and where the impossible becomes inevitable. Tonight, we're going to drift through a story that's unfolding right now, in real time, in laboratories and boardrooms around the world. A story about a decision that governments, corporations, and researchers are making today that will determine not just the future of technology, but the very fabric of how we solve problems, secure our information, and understand reality itself. The decision I'm talking about isn't whether quantum computing will matter. That question has already been answered. The decision is who will shape this quantum future and whether you'll be prepared for the world it's about to create. Take a breath for a moment and consider this. While most of us were going about our daily lives in 2024, something extraordinary was happening in the background. The United Nations declared 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, marking exactly 100 years since the birth of quantum mechanics. But this isn't just a ceremonial recognition. It's an acknowledgement that we've reached a tipping point. For the first time in decades, quantum computing companies generated between $650 million and $750 million in revenue in a single year. That might not sound revolutionary until you realize what it represents. This isn't speculative funding or research grants. This is real money-changing hands for quantum solutions that are solving real problems right now. Startups in the quantum space attracted about $2 billion in investment during the same period. And here's what makes this fascinating. These aren't the wild, optimistic bets that characterized early internet investing. These are calculated investments from people who've seen the technology work, who've witnessed quantum computers tackle problems that would bring traditional supercomputers to their knees. Amazon, Google, IBM, and Microsoft aren't just experimenting anymore. They're deploying. The shift from will quantum computing work to how do we make it work better happened so quietly that most of us missed it entirely. But the implications of this shift are about to ripple through every aspect of our digital lives. As you listen to this, notice how often we take our current computing power for granted. Your smartphone can perform calculations that would have seemed magical just decades ago. But we're approaching the limits of what traditional computers can achieve. The problems we need to solve, climate change, drug discovery, financial modelling, artificial intelligence, these challenges are bumping up against the fundamental constraints of classical computation. This is where the quantum decision becomes personal. Because the organisations and nations that master quantum computing first won't just have a technological advantage. They'll have the ability to solve problems that the rest of us can't even attempt. Let me tell you about a moment that changed everything. In December 2024, Google announced something called the Willow quantum chip. Now, quantum computing breakthroughs happen regularly, so you might have missed this one. But Willow wasn't just another incremental improvement. It was a demonstration of computational power that defies intuition. The standard way to test quantum computers is to give them a specific type of calculation, something complex enough to challenge them, but standardized enough to allow comparisons. Willow performed this benchmark calculation in under 5 minutes. The fastest classical supercomputer we have would need 10 septillion years to complete the same task. Let me help you visualize this number. If you started this calculation at the moment of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, you wouldn't even be close to finishing it today. In fact, you'd need the universe to live and die almost 1,000,000 billion times over to complete what Willow did during a coffee break. But here's what makes Willow truly revolutionary. And this is where the story gets interesting in ways that extend far beyond raw computational speed. For almost 30 years, quantum computing has faced a fundamental challenge. As you add more quantum bits or qubits to a system, it should become more powerful, but it also becomes more prone to errors. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra where every new musician you add makes the whole ensemble more likely to fall out of tune. Willow cracked this problem. Google demonstrated what's called below threshold operation, where adding more qubits actually reduces the error rate. They tested arrays of 3 by 3 qubits, then 5 by 5, then 7 by 7, and each time the system became not just more powerful, but more reliable. This is the quantum equivalent of discovering that a larger orchestra naturally stays more in tune, not less. Take a moment to consider what this means. We now have a path to quantum computers that become more accurate as they become more powerful. The scalability problem that has limited quantum computing for decades has been solved. The question is no longer whether we can build large, reliable quantum computers. The question is what we'll do with them. This might surprise you, but quantum computing isn't just solving abstract mathematical problems anymore. While Google was making headlines with Willow, companies around the world were quietly deploying quantum solutions to everyday challenges. The results are remarkable. One logistics company reduced a 25-hour weekly planning process to just 2 minutes using quantum optimization. A manufacturing firm cut their production waste by 80%. Another organization saw a 57% reduction in emissions by optimizing their operations with quantum algorithms. These aren't theoretical benefits projected for some distant future. These are real results, measured in real time, creating real value. The practical applications are emerging across industries in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. In drug discovery, quantum computers are beginning to model molecular interactions with a precision that classical computers simply cannot achieve. This isn't just about making existing processes faster. It's about making previously impossible research possible. Financial institutions are using quantum computing to model market behaviors and optimize portfolios at scales that were computationally intractable before. Supply chain managers are solving routing problems that involve thousands of variables in real time, adjusting entire fleets of vehicles simultaneously as conditions change. But perhaps the most fascinating development is happening at the intersection of quantum computing and artificial intelligence. Quantum neural networks are emerging that can process information in ways that classical AI cannot. They can spot patterns in data that would be invisible to traditional machine learning systems, and they can do it exponentially faster. As you reflect on this, consider how many of the problems you encounter in your daily life involve optimization, finding the best route to work, making financial decisions, even choosing what to watch next on a streaming platform. All of these challenges involve processing multiple variables and finding optimal solutions. Quantum computing doesn't just make these calculations faster, it makes better solutions possible. Now, here's where the quantum story takes a more urgent turn. The same computational power that makes quantum computers so promising for solving optimization problems also makes them potentially devastating for digital security. Most of our current encryption relies on the fact that certain mathematical problems are extremely difficult for classical computers to solve. Breaking today's encryption would require traditional computers to work for thousands of years. A quantum computer running Shor's algorithm could break this encryption in hours. Think about what this means for a moment. Every secure transaction you make online, every encrypted message you send, every password-protected account you have, all of it relies on mathematical problems that quantum computers can solve trivially. The security infrastructure that protects our digital lives is built on foundations that quantum computing can dissolve. This isn't a distant threat, despite the fact that 69% of organizations believe quantum computers will break current encryption within 5 years. Only 38% feel prepared for this transition. The quantum decision isn't just about who gets the advantages of quantum computing. It's about who gets left vulnerable when quantum computers can break the security systems we rely on today. But here's the fascinating paradox. Quantum mechanics doesn't just threaten digital security, it also offers the solution. Quantum cryptography, based on the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics, can provide security that's theoretically unbreakable. The same quantum effects that make quantum computers so powerful also make certain types of quantum communication absolutely secure. The race is on to develop and deploy quantum-safe cryptography before quantum computers become powerful enough to break current systems. This is happening in real time in government agencies and corporations around the world. The organizations that make this transition successfully will have unbreakable security. Those that don't will be vulnerable in ways they've never experienced before. As you listen to this, take a moment to imagine the world from the perspective of a government strategist or a corporate executive. You're watching a technology emerge that can break your security, revolutionize your industries, and solve problems your competitors can't even attempt. What would you do? The answer is what's happening right now. Nations and corporations are making massive coordinated investments in quantum technology. Australia announced a $620 million package to build what they're calling the world's first utility-scale quantum computer. Illinois committed $500 million to develop a quantum park. Singapore invested $222 million in quantum research and talent development. But perhaps most dramatically, Japan recently announced a $7.4 billion investment in quantum technology. This isn't just about staying competitive. This is about ensuring quantum sovereignty, the ability to control your own quantum future, rather than depending on others. The geopolitical implications are profound. The nations and organizations that achieve quantum advantage first won't just have better computers. They'll have the ability to break their competitors' security, solve problems others can't approach, and develop technologies others can't replicate. It's a winner-take-all scenario that's playing out in real time. But there's another layer to this quantum race that's even more critical: the talent shortage. Quantum computing requires a unique combination of skills: quantum physics, classical computing, mathematics, and engineering. The number of people who understand all of these domains is tiny compared to the demand. Organizations are scrambling not just to build quantum computers, but to find people who can operate them. This creates an interesting opportunity. The quantum revolution isn't just about having the best technology, it's about having people who understand how to use it. And right now, that expertise is distributed around the world in universities, research labs, and forward-thinking companies. As you consider your own place in this emerging landscape, think about this. Every major technological revolution has created new categories of careers and opportunities. The quantum revolution is no different, except that it's happening faster and with higher stakes than most transitions we've seen before. The quantum decision that's shaping your future isn't just being made in boardrooms and government offices. It's being made by individuals who choose to understand this technology, to develop quantum literacy, and to position themselves for a world where quantum computing is as fundamental as the internet is today. But what does this quantum future actually look like? How will quantum computing change not just technology, but the very nature of what's possible? And what does it mean for you, personally, as this transformation unfolds? These are the questions we'll explore as we continue our journey into the quantum landscape. Because the quantum decision isn't just about technology, it's about the kind of future we want to create, and whether we'll be active participants in shaping it, or passive observers watching it unfold around us. The revolution is already here. The only question is whether you'll be part of it. Take a quiet moment to consider something that might seem strange at first. As quantum computers become more powerful, they're not just changing how we calculate or optimize. They're beginning to mirror something we've always taken for granted: the mysterious way consciousness processes information. Not in the sense that quantum computers are becoming conscious, but in the way they handle uncertainty, possibility, and the strange dance between observation and reality. Classical computers think in absolutes, zeros and ones, true and false. But quantum computers, much like the human mind, exist in states of superposition, holding multiple possibilities simultaneously until the moment of decision arrives. This isn't to say that consciousness is quantum mechanical, though some interpretations suggest intriguing parallels. Rather, it's that both consciousness and quantum systems seem to navigate uncertainty in ways that classical physics struggles to explain. Consider how you make decisions. You weigh possibilities, hold contradictory thoughts, feel the tension between options until something crystallizes into choice. Quantum computers do something remarkably similar, exploring multiple solution paths simultaneously until measurement collapses the system into a specific outcome. The parallel is metaphorical, but it hints at something profound about the nature of information processing itself. As you reflect on this, notice how quantum computing is forcing us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about how information works. In the classical world, information is static, definite. A bit is either 0 or 1. But in the quantum realm, information exists in fluid states of potential until the moment it's observed or measured. This quantum view of information is beginning to influence fields far beyond computing. Quantum machine learning systems are emerging that process information in ways that feel almost intuitive, finding patterns and connections that classical systems miss entirely. They're not thinking in the human sense, but they're approaching problems with a kind of computational creativity that mirrors how breakthrough insights arise in human consciousness, sudden, unexpected, and often connecting ideas that seemed unrelated. The fascinating thing is that As we build more sophisticated quantum systems, we're discovering that the boundary between processing and experiencing information isn't as clear as we once thought. Quantum computers don't just calculate, they explore possibility spaces in ways that classical systems cannot. They exist in states of potential until measurement brings certainty, much like how creative insights emerge from the uncertain space of not knowing into the clarity of understanding. While we've been talking about calculations and algorithms, something equally revolutionary is happening in laboratories around the world. Quantum computers are beginning to design materials that have never existed before. Materials with properties that could transform everything from transportation to energy storage to medical devices. Imagine a substance that's lighter than aluminum but stronger than diamond, or a material that conducts electricity with perfect efficiency at room temperature, or a catalyst that can capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and convert it into useful compounds with incredible efficiency. These aren't science fiction concepts. They're the kinds of materials that quantum computers are helping researchers design right now. The classical approach to materials discovery is essentially educated guesswork. Scientists understand the basic principles of how atoms bond and interact, but predicting the exact properties of complex materials requires calculations so intensive that most possibilities remain unexplored. It's like trying to compose music by randomly arranging notes and hoping for harmony. Quantum computers can model the quantum mechanical interactions between atoms directly, simulating materials at the level where their properties actually emerge. They can explore vast possibility spaces of atomic arrangements, testing millions of theoretical materials in the time it would take classical computers to analyze a handful. As you consider this, think about how materials shape our daily lives in ways we rarely notice. The strength of the buildings we live in, the efficiency of the vehicles we drive, the batteries in our devices, the solar panels on our roofs. All of these depend on the specific properties of materials. Better materials mean better solutions to almost every challenge we face. One of the most promising applications is in developing better catalysts for carbon capture and conversion. Climate change represents perhaps the most urgent optimization problem humanity has ever faced, and quantum-designed materials could provide solutions that are simply impossible to discover through classical methods. Materials that can efficiently convert atmospheric carbon dioxide into useful products, or that can store renewable energy with unprecedented efficiency. The timeline for these developments is accelerating in ways that surprise even experts in the field. Materials that would have taken decades to discover through traditional methods are being designed and tested within months using quantum-enhanced approaches. The quantum advantage in materials science isn't just about speed, it's about accessing entirely new categories of possibility. But perhaps most intriguingly, quantum computers are helping us understand that materials science is fundamentally about information. The properties of any material emerge from the quantum information encoded in how its atoms are arranged and how they interact. By directly manipulating this quantum information, we're gaining unprecedented control over the physical properties of matter itself. In a quiet laboratory somewhere, a quantum computer is working on a problem that could change medicine forever. It's modeling the precise way a potential drug molecule might interact with a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease, calculating interactions at the quantum level with an accuracy that classical computers cannot achieve. Drug discovery has always been a race against time and probability. Traditional pharmaceutical development can take 15 years and cost billions of dollars, with most potential drugs failing at various stages of testing. The process is so expensive and time-consuming that many diseases affecting smaller populations remain untreated simply because the economics don't work. Quantum computing is beginning to change this equation in fundamental ways. By modeling molecular interactions at the quantum level, researchers can predict how potential drugs will behave in the human body with unprecedented precision. They can simulate the complex dance of molecules binding to cellular receptors, the subtle changes in protein folding that determine whether a treatment will work, the cascade of biochemical reactions that determine side effects. The implications extend far beyond faster drug development. Quantum-enhanced research is opening up entirely new categories of therapeutic possibilities, personalized medicines designed for individual genetic profiles, treatments that work by precisely modulating quantum processes in cellular energy production, diagnostic techniques that can detect disease at the molecular level long before symptoms appear. As you contemplate this, consider how profoundly personal these developments could become. The quantum algorithms working on drug discovery today might be designing the treatments that extend your life, cure diseases that run in your family, or address health challenges you haven't even encountered yet. The abstract computational power we've been discussing has very concrete implications for human suffering and healing, but quantum computing in healthcare extends beyond drug discovery. Quantum-enhanced imaging systems are being developed that can see inside the human body with resolution and sensitivity impossible with classical techniques. Quantum sensors that can detect single molecules, potentially identifying cancer or other diseases from a simple breath sample. The convergence of quantum computing and artificial intelligence is creating diagnostic systems that can process vast amounts of medical data to identify patterns that human doctors might miss. Not to replace medical judgment, but to augment it with computational insights that could save lives through earlier detection and more precise treatment. There's something deeply moving about the idea that the same quantum principles that seem so abstract and mathematical are being harnessed to address some of humanity's most fundamental vulnerabilities. The uncertainty principle that makes quantum computers powerful is being used to reduce uncertainty about human health. The entanglement that enables quantum communication is helping researchers understand the entangled complexity of biological systems. Pause for a moment and imagine your morning routine 10 years from today. You wake up to quantum algorithms that analyzed your sleep patterns, local weather, traffic conditions, and your calendar to determine the perfect wake-up time. Your coffee is brewed to the exact temperature and strength calculated by quantum systems that modeled your taste preferences, the specific beans you're using, and even your stress levels from yesterday. Your commute route was planned by quantum optimization systems that processed real-time data from thousands of vehicles, traffic signals, and weather sensors to find not just the fastest path for you, but the optimal flow for everyone. The very materials in your electric vehicle were designed using quantum computers to be lighter, stronger, and more efficient than anything possible with classical design methods. This isn't speculative futurism. The quantum economic transformation is already beginning, and it's happening in ways that will touch every aspect of daily life. McKinsey projects that quantum computing will create between $450 billion and $850 billion of economic value by 2040, sustaining a market of $90 billion, $270 billion for hardware and software providers alone. But these numbers don't capture the full picture. quantum computing isn't just creating a new industry, it's fundamentally changing how existing industries operate. In finance, quantum algorithms are enabling real-time risk assessment and portfolio optimization at scales impossible with classical systems. Banks and investment firms that master quantum techniques will have advantages so significant that traditional approaches may become obsolete. In logistics and transportation, quantum optimization is solving problems that have plagued these industries for decades. The ability to coordinate thousands of vehicles, optimize supply chains across multiple variables, and adapt to changing conditions in real time represents a fundamental shift from reactive to predictive operations. As you consider your own economic future, think about how quantum advantages might affect your industry, your career, your investments. The organizations that successfully integrate quantum capabilities won't just be more efficient than their competitors, they'll be solving problems that their competitors can't even attempt. But there's a deeper economic principle at work here. Quantum computing is creating what economists call increasing returns to scale in knowledge work. The organizations that invest early in quantum capabilities and develop quantum expertise will find that their advantages compound over time. Each quantum-enhanced solution makes the next one easier to develop and implement. This creates potential winner-take-all scenarios in many industries. The companies that achieve quantum advantage first may find it increasingly difficult for competitors to catch up, not because the technology is secret, but because the learning curves are so steep and the advantages so significant. For individuals, this suggests that developing quantum literacy, even at a basic level, could become as valuable as computer literacy was in the early days of the internet revolution. Understanding quantum principles, quantum algorithms, and quantum applications may become essential skills across a wide range of careers. Here's something that might keep you awake at night, though I hope it won't. The quantum revolution is happening at a pace that's outstripping our ability to understand its implications, let alone govern them democratically. By the time most people become aware of how quantum computing is changing their world, many of the crucial decisions about how it's deployed will have already been made. This isn't necessarily anyone's fault. Quantum technology is inherently complex, requiring deep technical knowledge to understand even its basic principles. The number of people who can meaningfully participate in discussions about quantum policy is tiny compared to the number of people who will be affected by quantum-enhanced systems. Consider the quantum cryptography transition we discussed earlier. The decision about which quantum-safe encryption standards to adopt, how quickly to implement them, and which organizations get priority access to quantum-secure communications, these choices are being made right now by small groups of technical experts and policymakers. Yet these decisions will determine the security of everyone's digital lives. Or think about quantum-enhanced artificial intelligence systems, the algorithms that determine what information you see, what products are recommended to you, what job opportunities you're offered. These systems are becoming quantum-enhanced in ways that make them both more powerful and less transparent. The decisions about how these systems are trained, what biases they might perpetuate or correct, and what safeguards protect individual privacy, these are being made by technologists and corporations with limited public input. As you reflect on this, consider how democratic societies typically handle transformative technologies. We debate, we regulate, we try to ensure that the benefits are widely shared and the risks are managed. But quantum computing is advancing so rapidly, that traditional democratic processes may not be able to keep pace. This creates what some researchers call the quantum governance gap. The technology is advancing faster than our institutions can adapt, faster than public understanding can develop, and faster than regulatory frameworks can evolve. By the time we have widespread public discussion about quantum policies, many of the fundamental architectural decisions will have been locked in. But there's also an opportunity here. Unlike previous technological revolutions that caught society unprepared, we can see the quantum transformation coming. We have time, though perhaps not much, to think seriously about how we want quantum technologies to be developed and deployed. The quantum decision that's shaping your future isn't just being made by governments and corporations. It's also being made by individuals who choose to engage with these questions, to develop enough quantum literacy to participate meaningfully in discussions about quantum policy, and to advocate for quantum development that serves human flourishing rather than just technical capability. This requires a new kind of citizenship, one that's comfortable with uncertainty, capable of thinking about complex systems, and committed to ensuring that transformative technologies serve democratic values. It's not enough to simply trust that technologists and policymakers will make good decisions on our behalf. The stakes are too high and the implications too far-reaching. The quantum future is being written right now, in code and in policy, in investment decisions, and in research priorities. The question is whether it will be written with broad human input or by a small technical elite, whether it will amplify human capabilities or replace them, whether it will democratize access to powerful tools or concentrate power in fewer hands. These aren't just technical questions. They're fundamentally about what kind of society we want to live in and what kind of future we want to create. And they can't be answered by quantum computers, no matter how powerful they become. They can only be answered by us, working together, with wisdom and care, and a deep commitment to human dignity. The quantum revolution is here, but its ultimate direction is still ours to determine. As you sit there, listening to this, quantum effects are already flowing through the infrastructure around you in ways you've probably never considered. The GPS system that guides your navigation relies on quantum mechanical corrections to maintain accuracy. The LED lights illuminating your space operate on quantum principles. Even the magnetic resonance imaging machines in hospitals depend on quantum phenomena to peer inside the human body without harm. But these are just the beginning whispers of a quantum infrastructure that's being built around us, largely invisible, largely unnoticed. Take a moment to imagine the internet, but instead of classical bits flowing through fiber optic cables, quantum information moving through networks that are fundamentally unhackable. Not because we've built better locks, but because the very act of trying to intercept quantum information destroys it, alerting everyone to the intrusion attempt. This quantum internet isn't science fiction. Rudimentary versions already exist, connecting research institutions across continents through quantum entanglement. China has deployed quantum communication satellites. The European Union is investing billions in quantum communication networks. These systems represent a new kind of digital infrastructure, one where privacy isn't just protected by encryption, but by the fundamental laws of physics. Consider what this means for the most sensitive information in our society. Medical records that are truly private, financial transactions that cannot be monitored or manipulated, government communications that remain secure even from future quantum computers, voting systems that are mathematically verifiable and impossible to hack. personal communications that are as private as thoughts themselves. But quantum infrastructure extends far beyond communication. Quantum sensors are being embedded into navigation systems that work even when GPS is unavailable, using the Earth's magnetic field and gravitational variations to determine location with unprecedented precision. These sensors can detect underground resources, monitor structural integrity of buildings and bridges, and even predict earthquakes by measuring minute changes in gravitational fields. In the energy sector, quantum-enhanced power grids are being developed that can optimize energy distribution in real time across entire continents. These systems can balance supply and demand with perfect efficiency, integrate renewable energy sources seamlessly, and prevent cascading failures that lead to blackouts. The power flowing to your home could soon be managed by quantum algorithms that make decisions faster than human operators could even perceive the need for adjustment. As you reflect on this emerging quantum infrastructure, notice how it represents a fundamental shift in the relationship between technology and society. Previous technological revolutions gave us better tools to do familiar things. The quantum revolution is giving us the ability to do things that were previously impossible. Not just difficult or expensive, but literally impossible within the constraints of classical physics. This infrastructure will be largely invisible to most users, just as the internet's underlying protocols are invisible to most web browsers. But its effects will be profound, creating a world where certain types of privacy invasion become physically impossible, where energy waste becomes mathematically minimized, and where the detection of threats or opportunities can happen at the speed of quantum measurement. Something remarkable is happening right now that most technology observers are missing. We're witnessing the convergence of quantum computing with artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology simultaneously. This isn't just multiple technologies advancing in parallel, it's a situation where progress in each field is accelerating progress in all the others, creating a feedback loop of innovation that's unprecedented in human history. Quantum computers are designing better artificial intelligence algorithms. Those AI systems are helping to control and optimize quantum computers. Both technologies are being used to design new materials at the nanoscale. Those materials are enabling better quantum computers and more efficient AI systems. Meanwhile, quantum-enhanced AI is revolutionizing biotechnology by modeling biological systems with accuracy that was previously impossible. Take a breath and consider what this convergence means for the pace of change itself. We're not just experiencing rapid technological development, we're experiencing accelerating technological development. Each breakthrough makes the next breakthrough easier to achieve and faster to implement. The timeline between scientific discovery and practical application is compressing in ways that challenge our ability to adapt. In biotechnology, quantum-enhanced AI is beginning to design entirely new categories of biological systems. Not just new drugs or treatments, but new ways of thinking about biology itself. Synthetic organisms designed from the ground up using quantum calculations of molecular interactions. Biological computers that use living cells as processing units. Therapeutic systems that can reprogram themselves based on real-time feedback from the patient's body. The nanotechnology intersection is equally profound. Quantum computers are enabling the precise design of molecular machines, devices smaller than viruses that can manipulate matter at the atomic level. These machines could repair cellular damage, deliver drugs to specific locations in the body, or even construct larger objects by assembling them atom by atom. But perhaps most significantly, this convergence is happening faster than our social and economic institutions can adapt. The regulatory frameworks that govern biotechnology were designed for a world where genetic modification took years and cost millions of dollars. Quantum-enhanced bioengineering can accomplish similar modifications in weeks at a fraction of the cost. As you contemplate this convergence, consider how it might affect the most fundamental aspects of human existence. The boundary between biological and artificial intelligence is blurring as quantum computers enable AI systems that can model neural networks with biological accuracy. The distinction between designed and evolved systems is fading as quantum algorithms can design organisms that are more efficient than anything evolution has produced. The convergence extends to our understanding of information itself. Quantum computers process information in ways that bridge the gap between computation and physics. Biological systems store and process information in ways that quantum computers can model directly. Artificial intelligence systems are beginning to process information in ways that mirror both quantum and biological information processing. This suggests that we may be approaching a unified understanding of information, computation, and intelligence that transcends the traditional boundaries between physics, biology, and computer science. The implications of this unified understanding could be as transformative as the original quantum revolution in physics, but applied across all aspects of science and technology simultaneously. Now let's bring this quantum conversation closer to home, to you personally, listening to this right now. While quantum computers solve abstract optimization problems in distant laboratories, quantum effects are actually operating within your own body in ways that directly influence your daily experience of being alive. The process of photosynthesis that creates the oxygen you breathe relies on quantum coherence effects that allow energy to find the most efficient path through plant cells. The enzymes that digest your food use quantum tunneling to catalyze chemical reactions that would be impossible under classical physics. Even the sense of smell that allows you to enjoy your morning coffee may depend on quantum mechanical effects in your nasal receptors. Some researchers propose that the microtubules in your brain cells might maintain quantum coherence long enough to influence neural processing, though this remains highly speculative and unproven. What's less speculative is that the very atoms that make up your body are quantum mechanical entities existing in probability states until they interact with other atoms to create the biochemical processes that sustain your life. As you listen to this, notice that you are, quite literally, a quantum system. Not in some mystical or metaphorical sense, but in the most concrete physical sense possible. Every chemical reaction in your body, every electrical impulse in your nervous system, every process that maintains your existence operates according to quantum mechanical principles. This personal quantum dimension becomes even more intriguing when we consider consciousness itself. While we're far from understanding how consciousness arises from brain activity, we do know that the brain operates as an incredibly complex quantum system. The electrical patterns that correlate with your thoughts, the chemical signals that create your emotions, the neural networks that store your memories, all of these operate at the boundary between quantum and classical physics. The quantum computers we've been discussing aren't just external tools that will change the world around you. They're teaching us about the quantum processes that are already operating within you. As these computers become more sophisticated, they're providing new ways to understand and potentially enhance the quantum biological systems that create your experience of being human. Consider the possibility that quantum-enhanced medical devices might one day monitor and optimize the quantum processes in your own body. Diagnostic systems that can detect quantum signatures of health and disease. Therapeutic devices that use quantum fields to promote healing at the cellular level. Brain-computer interfaces that work by detecting and amplifying the quantum coherence patterns associated with specific thoughts or intentions. These possibilities remain largely speculative, but they point toward a future where the boundary between you and quantum technology becomes increasingly permeable. Not in the sense of merging with machines, but in the sense of using quantum principles to enhance and optimize the quantum processes that already define your biological existence. The quantum decision that's shaping your future isn't just about external technologies. It's about understanding and potentially enhancing the quantum nature of your own existence. The same principles that make quantum computers powerful are the principles that make your life possible. As we learn to harness quantum effects in our technologies, we're also learning to understand and work with the quantum effects that create active experience of being you. Here's something that might seem contradictory at first. As quantum computers become more powerful, as they solve problems that classical computers cannot even attempt, they're also revealing the fundamental limits of what any computational system can achieve. They're not eliminating mystery from the universe, they're deepening it in profound ways. Quantum computers work by embracing uncertainty, by existing in states of superposition until the moment of measurement forces them to choose specific outcomes. This isn't a limitation of current quantum technology that will be overcome with better engineering. It's a fundamental feature of how information works at the deepest levels of reality. The more we understand about quantum systems, the more we realize that uncertainty isn't something to be eliminated, but something to be navigated wisely. Quantum computers don't provide definitive answers to complex questions. They provide probability distributions, likelihood assessments, optimal strategies for dealing with inherent uncertainty. Take a moment to consider what this means for human decision-making. In a world where quantum computers can process vast amounts of information and identify optimal strategies, the most valuable human skills may not be computational abilities, but wisdom-based abilities. The capacity to navigate uncertainty with grace, the ability to make decisions based on incomplete information, the skill of finding meaning and purpose in probabilistic rather than deterministic outcomes. Quantum computing is revealing that the universe itself operates more like a jazz ensemble than like a clockwork mechanism. There are patterns, structures, harmonies, but there's also improvisation, emergence, and creative response to unexpected developments. The most sophisticated quantum systems mirror this improvisational quality, adapting to new information and changing conditions in real time. This suggests that as we develop quantum technologies, we're not moving toward a world of perfect predictability and control. We're moving toward a world where sophisticated tools help us navigate complexity and uncertainty more skillfully. Quantum computers don't eliminate the need for human judgment. They enhance it by processing information in ways that reveal the deeper patterns and possibilities within complex situations. The wisdom paradox extends to how we think about knowledge itself. Classical computation encouraged us to think of knowledge as definitive, binary, true or false. Quantum computation encourages us to think of knowledge as probabilistic, contextual, and dependent on the act of observation itself. This quantum view of knowledge is actually more aligned with how wisdom traditions have always understood truth, as something that emerges through the interaction between observer and observed, between question and context. As you reflect on this, consider how quantum thinking might influence your approach to personal decisions and relationships. Instead of seeking definitive answers to complex life questions, quantum wisdom suggests looking for probability patterns, for strategies that remain robust across multiple possible futures, for ways of being that can adapt gracefully to emerging circumstances. The quantum computers that will shape our future aren't replacing human wisdom with algorithmic certainty. They're creating tools that can help us navigate uncertainty more skillfully, make decisions based on deeper pattern recognition, and respond to complexity with greater sophistication. But they're also reminding us that the most important questions about meaning, purpose, and how we want to live together, cannot be answered by any computer, quantum or classical. They can only be explored through the ongoing human conversation about what kind of future we want to create. Throughout history, our technologies have extended our physical capabilities. Tools gave us leverage over matter. Telescopes extended our vision. Computers extended our memory and calculation abilities. But quantum technologies do something different. They extend our ability to work with the fundamental structure of information and possibility itself. Quantum computers don't just process information faster than classical computers. They process information in ways that classical computers cannot, by maintaining multiple possibilities simultaneously and allowing those possibilities to interact in complex ways before collapsing into specific outcomes. This represents a new kind of relationship between human consciousness and the computational tools we create. Consider the possibility that developing quantum technologies is actually developing our collective capacity to think quantum mechanically, to hold multiple possibilities in mind simultaneously, to navigate uncertainty with greater skill, and to find optimal solutions within complex possibility spaces. As you contemplate this perspective, notice that the quantum revolution isn't just changing our external world, it's changing how we think about thinking itself. Quantum algorithms are teaching us new ways to approach problems, new strategies for exploring solution spaces, new methods for optimizing outcomes within uncertain environments. The game theory term infinite game describes activities where the goal isn't to win and end the game, but to continue playing and invite others to play. Quantum computing feels like an infinite game in this sense. Each breakthrough doesn't end the exploration, it opens up new territories for discovery. Each solved problem reveals new problems that couldn't even be formulated before the solution to the previous problem existed. The quantum decision that's shaping your future is ultimately a decision about what kind of infinite game humanity wants to play. Do we use quantum technologies primarily for competitive advantage to solve problems faster than our rivals? Or do we use them as tools for collaborative exploration, to understand reality more deeply and create solutions that benefit everyone? The technical capabilities of quantum computing are developing so rapidly that these philosophical and ethical questions are becoming urgently practical. The organizations and nations that gain quantum advantage first will have unprecedented power to shape the future direction of this technology. The choices they make about how to develop and deploy quantum capabilities will influence the trajectory of human civilization for generations. But the quantum infinite game is ultimately bigger than any single organization or nation. It's a species-level exploration of what becomes possible when we learn to work with the deepest patterns of reality itself. The quantum effects we're learning to harness in our computers are the same quantum effects that created the universe, that enable the complexity of biological life, and that make consciousness possible. As you settle deeper into this exploration, there's something profoundly intimate happening that we haven't yet acknowledged. While quantum computers in distant laboratories process information in ways that seem abstract and removed from daily life, you are experiencing something remarkably similar, right here, right now, in the quiet theatre of your own awareness. Consider this moment of listening. Your consciousness isn't processing this information in a simple, linear way, like a classical computer reading data. Instead, you're holding multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. You're connecting new concepts to existing memories, feeling emotional resonances, imagining future possibilities, and perhaps even questioning or doubting what you're hearing, all at the same time. This multiplicity of simultaneous processing bears a striking resemblance to quantum superposition, though we must be clear that this is a metaphorical comparison, not a scientific claim. The fascinating thing is that as we develop more sophisticated quantum technologies, we're discovering computational principles that mirror patterns we've always recognized in human experience but never fully understood. The way quantum computers explore solution spaces by maintaining multiple possibilities simultaneously echoes how creative insights emerge in human consciousness, how we navigate complex decisions, and how meaning itself seems to arise from the intersection of multiple interpretive layers. Take a breath here and notice something subtle about your own experience. Right now, as you listen, you're not just receiving information passively. You're actively constructing meaning from the interaction between these words and your own background of knowledge, experience, and intention. This co-creative process between information and awareness is something that quantum computers are teaching us to recognize as fundamental to how information actually works at the deepest levels. This isn't to suggest that consciousness is quantum mechanical in any literal sense. The scientific evidence for that remains highly speculative and unproven. Rather, it's to recognize that both consciousness and quantum systems seem to operate through similar principles of potentiality, relationship, and emergence. Both exist in states of openness to multiple possibilities until something crystallizes into specific experience or measurement. Let's trace some of the subtler ways the quantum transformation is already rippling through aspects of life that might seem completely unrelated to advanced computing. These effects are often invisible, embedded in systems and processes that touch your daily experience without announcing their quantum origins. The financial algorithms that determine your credit score, the optimization systems that route your packages, the recommendation engines that suggest what you might want to watch or buy. Many of these are beginning to incorporate quantum-inspired approaches even when they're running on classical computers. The principles of quantum computing, the exploration of multiple solution paths simultaneously, the optimization across complex probability landscapes. These ideas are influencing how we design systems throughout society. In agriculture, quantum-enhanced modeling is helping farmers optimize crop yields while minimizing environmental impact. The complex interactions between soil chemistry, weather patterns, plant genetics, and pest dynamics create optimization problems that classical approaches can only approximate. Quantum algorithms can explore these multidimensional solution spaces more effectively, leading to farming practices that are both more productive and more sustainable. Urban planning is being transformed by quantum-inspired approaches to traffic flow, energy distribution, and resource allocation. The movement of people and goods through complex city systems involves millions of interconnected decisions and constraints. Quantum optimization techniques are helping city planners design infrastructure that adapts dynamically to changing conditions, reducing congestion, minimizing energy waste, and improving quality of life for urban residents. As you consider these ripple effects, notice how they represent a shift from rigid, predetermined systems to adaptive, responsive ones. Classical approaches to complex problems typically involve finding one good solution and implementing it consistently. Quantum-inspired approaches involve creating systems that can explore multiple solutions continuously and adapt to changing conditions in real time. This shift toward adaptive systems is appearing in education, where quantum-inspired personalization algorithms help create learning experiences that adjust to individual student needs and learning styles. In healthcare, where treatment protocols can be optimized dynamically based on patient response and emerging research. In environmental management, where conservation strategies can be adjusted continuously based on changing ecological conditions. The common thread is that quantum principles are teaching us to design systems that work with uncertainty and complexity rather than trying to eliminate them. This represents a fundamental shift in how we think about control and prediction, from trying to impose fixed solutions to creating systems that can navigate change skillfully. Something subtle but profound is happening to language itself as quantum concepts permeate our cultural conversation. We're developing new ways of talking about uncertainty, possibility, and the relationship between observation and reality that are changing how we think about everything, from personal relationships to political decision-making. The quantum concept of complementarity, the idea that some aspects of reality can only be understood through mutually exclusive perspectives, is beginning to influence how we approach complex social issues. Instead of assuming that there must be one correct viewpoint that eliminates all others, quantum thinking encourages us to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously and recognize that each reveals different aspects of a larger truth. In conflict resolution, mediators are beginning to use quantum-inspired approaches that focus on creating spaces where seemingly contradictory positions can coexist until new possibilities emerge. Rather than trying to force opposing sides to agree on a single version of reality, these approaches create conditions where multiple realities can interact and potentially synthesize into novel solutions. The quantum principle of entanglement is providing new metaphors for understanding interconnection and interdependence in social systems. When we recognize that changing one part of a complex system can have instantaneous effects on distant parts, we begin to think differently about responsibility, causation, and intervention in social problems. As you reflect on this linguistic transformation, consider how quantum concepts might be appearing in your own conversations and thinking patterns. Perhaps you're becoming more comfortable with uncertainty, more willing to hold multiple possibilities in mind simultaneously, more aware of how your perspective influences what you observe in complex situations. The language of quantum mechanics is seeping into therapeutic practices, where concepts like superposition and wave function collapse provide metaphors for understanding psychological change and personal transformation. While these applications are metaphorical rather than literal, they're offering new ways to think about how identity, possibility, and change interact in human experience. Educational approaches are incorporating quantum principles to help students become more comfortable with ambiguity and paradox. Instead of teaching subjects as collections of fixed facts, quantum-inspired pedagogy emphasizes the exploration of possibility spaces, the recognition of observer effects in knowledge construction, and the dynamic relationship between questions and answers. This linguistic revolution is happening gradually, often unconsciously, as quantum metaphors provide more nuanced ways of describing experiences that classical language struggled to capture. The result is a cultural conversation that's becoming more sophisticated about uncertainty, more appreciative of complexity, and more skillful at navigating the spaces between definitive answers. In the quiet spaces where human creativity meets quantum possibility, something unprecedented is beginning to emerge. Artists, musicians, writers, and designers are discovering that quantum principles offer not just new tools for creation, but entirely new ways of understanding the creative process itself. Digital artists are using quantum random number generators to create visual works that contain true randomness, not the pseudo-randomness of classical computer algorithms. The resulting artworks have a quality of genuine unpredictability that reflects the fundamental uncertainty at the heart of reality. These pieces exist in dialogue with quantum mechanics, using the universe's own creative processes as artistic materials. Musicians are exploring quantum-inspired composition techniques, where multiple musical possibilities exist simultaneously until the moment of performance. Instead of writing fixed scores, they're creating probability clouds of musical possibility that collapse into specific performances through the act of playing. Each performance becomes a unique measurement of the quantum musical potential. Take a moment to consider what this suggests about creativity itself. Perhaps the creative process has always been quantum-like, involving the exploration of multiple possibilities simultaneously until inspiration crystallizes into specific expression. Quantum technologies aren't creating new forms of creativity so much as providing tools that make visible the quantum nature of creative process that has always existed. Writers are experimenting with narrative structures that mirror quantum superposition, where multiple storylines exist simultaneously until reader choices or random events collapse the narrative into specific outcomes. These interactive stories reflect the quantum insight that observation plays an active role in determining reality. That meaning emerges from the interaction between text and reader, rather than being fixed in the words themselves. The most intriguing development may be in collaborative creativity, where quantum principles inspire new forms of artistic collaboration. Instead of traditional approaches where individual artists contribute separate pieces to a collective work, quantum-inspired collaboration involves creating spaces where artistic possibilities can exist in superposition until they interact and synthesize into emergent expressions that no single artist could have created alone. These creative explorations are revealing something profound about the relationship between consciousness and possibility. When artists work with quantum principles, they often report that the creative process feels less like imposing their will on materials and more like participating in a dialogue with possibility itself. This shift from creation as control to creation as collaboration reflects a broader transformation in how we understand agency and intention in complex systems. As you contemplate this creative emergence, notice how it mirrors patterns we've been exploring throughout this journey. Quantum creativity like quantum computing, works by embracing uncertainty, maintaining multiple possibilities simultaneously, and allowing new realities to emerge through interaction and observation. The artists pioneering these approaches are not just making new kinds of art, they're exploring new ways of being creative that align with the deepest patterns of how reality itself creates and evolves. The quantum advantage in computational power raises immediate questions about fairness and access. If quantum computers can solve certain problems exponentially faster than classical systems, what happens to organizations and nations that don't have access to quantum technologies? Will the quantum revolution create new forms of inequality, or can it be developed in ways that democratize access to powerful problem-solving capabilities? The quantum threat to current encryption systems presents us with a security transition unlike anything we've experienced before. The challenge isn't just technical, it's temporal. Organizations must invest in quantum-safe cryptography before they know exactly when quantum computers will become powerful enough to break current systems. Those who transition too early may waste resources on unnecessary security measures. Those who wait too long may find their most sensitive information suddenly vulnerable. As you consider these ethical challenges, notice how they require a different kind of moral reasoning than we're accustomed to. Classical ethical frameworks often assume that we can predict the consequences of our actions with reasonable accuracy. Quantum technologies operate in domains of fundamental uncertainty, where the consequences of our choices exist in superposition until they collapse into specific outcomes through the complex interaction of technological development, social response, and unforeseeable circumstances. The intersection of quantum computing with artificial intelligence raises particularly complex questions about consciousness, agency, and moral consideration. If quantum-enhanced AI systems begin to exhibit behavior that appears conscious or self-aware, how do we determine their moral status? These systems won't be conscious in the biological sense, but they may process information in ways that mirror patterns we associate with consciousness, including uncertainty, creativity, and adaptive response to complex situations. The potential for quantum technologies to enhance human biological systems introduces questions about identity, authenticity, and the nature of human experience. If quantum sensors can monitor and potentially optimize quantum processes in our bodies, what does it mean to be naturally human versus quantum enhanced? We don't have clear answers yet, but these questions require careful consideration as quantum biotechnology advances. Perhaps most fundamentally, the quantum transformation challenges us to develop new forms of ethical reasoning that can operate uncertainty. Traditional ethical frameworks often seek effectively under conditions of deep, clear principles that can guide action across all situations. Quantum ethics may require more adaptive, contextual approaches that can navigate moral complexity without demanding false certainty about outcomes. The quantum future we're creating together will be shaped not just by technological capabilities, but by the ethical choices we make about how to develop and deploy these capabilities. The most important quantum decisions aren't being made in laboratories or boardrooms alone. They're being made in the ongoing cultural conversation about what kind of future we want to create and what values we want that future to embody. As we reach the end of this particular exploration, take a moment to notice something important. The quantum decision that's shaping your future isn't a single choice made once and then implemented. It's a continuous decision, being made moment by moment, by millions of people around the world, including you. Every time you choose to learn something new about quantum technologies, you're participating in the quantum decision. Every time you engage in conversations about how these technologies should be developed and used, you're contributing to the collective wisdom that will guide their implementation. Every time you consider the ethical implications of quantum capabilities, you're helping to ensure that the quantum future serves human flourishing. The quantum computers working in laboratories around the world right now exist in a state of potential until human choices collapse that potential into specific applications and implementations. The quantum future isn't predetermined, it's probabilistic. It exists as a superposition of possibilities until our collective choices measure it into specific reality. As you go forward from this moment, carrying with you whatever insights or questions this exploration has generated, remember that you're not a passive observer of the quantum transformation. You're an active participant in its unfolding. The choices you make, the skills you develop, the conversations you engage in, the values you advocate for, all of these contribute to the continuous quantum decision that's shaping our collective future. The revolution is here, the technologies are real, and the implications are profound. But the ultimate direction of this transformation remains in our hands. We are writing the quantum future together, one choice at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment of possibility collapsing into reality at a time. Take a quiet breath here and let yourself notice something curious. As quantum computers are learning to exist in states of superposition, holding multiple possibilities simultaneously, contemplative traditions have been exploring remarkably similar territories for thousands of years. Not because meditation creates quantum effects in your brain, this remains scientifically unproven, but because both domains seem to involve a skillful relationship with uncertainty, presence, and the space between thoughts. When experienced meditators describe states of open awareness, they often talk about a quality of mind that's receptive to multiple possibilities without immediately collapsing into conceptual conclusions. There's a fascinating parallel here, though it's purely metaphorical, to how quantum systems exist in superposition until the moment of measurement. Both involve a kind of suspended knowing, a comfort with not yet determined outcomes. Consider how meditation practices often involve observing thoughts without being consumed by them, maintaining awareness of the space in which thoughts arise and dissolve. This observer function shares some intriguing similarities with the role of measurement in quantum mechanics, where the act of observation plays a crucial role in determining outcomes. Again, this is a conceptual parallel rather than a literal scientific connection, but it suggests that contemplative practices may naturally align with quantum ways of understanding reality. Research into meditation and consciousness is revealing patterns that echo themes we've been exploring throughout our quantum journey. Studies of long-term meditators show increased activity in brain networks associated with metacognition and self-awareness, the very capacities that allow us to step back from immediate reactions and observe the unfolding of experience with greater clarity and less attachment to specific outcomes. As you reflect on this intersection, notice how both quantum mechanics and contemplative practice invite us to question our assumptions about the nature of observation, reality, and the relationship between consciousness and the world we perceive. Neither domain provides simple answers, but both offer sophisticated approaches to navigating uncertainty with greater wisdom and less reactive grasping for control. Some interpretations suggest that contemplative practices may actually enhance our capacity to think quantum mechanically, to become more comfortable with paradox and uncertainty, more skilled at holding multiple perspectives simultaneously, and more aware of how our own observation and intention influence our experience of reality. While these connections remain largely speculative, they point toward intriguing possibilities for how ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science might inform each other. Here's where our exploration takes an even more intriguing turn, though we must proceed carefully through territory that's more speculative than proven. Some researchers are investigating whether there might be subtle field effects that connect individual consciousness with broader patterns of collective behaviour and social coherence. While the scientific evidence for these connections remains preliminary and controversial, the questions being explored touch on fundamental aspects of how individual and collective experience might interact. Studies of group meditation practices have suggested, though not conclusively proven, correlations between sustained collective contemplative practice and measurable changes in surrounding social indicators. The Global Consciousness Project, while methodologically debated, has collected data suggesting that periods of intense collective focus or trauma may correlate with changes in random number generators around the world. These findings remain highly controversial and lack scientific consensus, but they raise fascinating questions about the boundaries of individual and collective experience. The quantum concept of non-locality, where entangled particles maintain instantaneous correlations across vast distances, provides a metaphorical framework for thinking about how individual contemplative practice might contribute to broader patterns of social coherence. This is purely speculative and metaphorical, not a claim about literal quantum entanglement between human consciousness and social systems, but it offers an interesting lens for considering how individual inner work might ripple outward in ways we don't yet fully understand. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they align with insights from systems thinking and complexity science, fields that study how local changes can have non-linear effects on larger systems. Whether or not consciousness operates through quantum-like field effects, we know that individual behaviour influences social systems in complex, often unpredictable ways. Your own states of clarity, compassion, and wisdom contribute to the collective field of human experience, though the mechanisms of this contribution may be more subtle and indirect than we currently understand. Take a breath here and consider how this perspective might influence your approach to contemplative practice. If individual contemplative development potentially contributes to broader social coherence, then practices of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom become not just personal pursuits, but forms of social contribution. Not because they create measurable field effects, which remains unproven, but because they enhance the qualities of presence and responsiveness that improve all our relationships and interactions. Now we arrive at perhaps the deepest mystery in all of science, the relationships between consciousness and the physical universe. While quantum computers process information in ways that mirror some aspects of conscious experience, we must be clear that consciousness itself remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in science, and its relationship to quantum mechanics is highly speculative and unproven. The hard problem of consciousness, as philosophers call it, is explaining how subjective experience arises from objective physical processes. Why is there something it's like to be you, experiencing this moment of listening, rather than simply information processing occurring without any inner experience? Quantum mechanics doesn't solve this problem, but it does reveal that the relationship between observation and reality is far more complex than classical physics assumed. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness might play a fundamental role in the collapse of quantum superposition into definite states. However, this remains highly controversial, with most physicists arguing that any measurement device, conscious or not, can cause wave function collapse. The relationship between consciousness and quantum measurement is far from settled science and should not be taken as established fact. What's less controversial is that both consciousness and quantum systems seem to involve non-classical relationships between possibility and actuality. In consciousness, multiple thoughts, feelings, and perceptions can coexist until attention focuses on specific aspects of experience. In quantum systems, multiple states can coexist until measurement selects specific outcomes. These parallels are suggestive, but don't constitute scientific proof of any direct connection. As you sit with these questions, notice that consciousness itself might be the most quantum-like phenomenon we directly experience. Your awareness right now is somehow integrating multiple streams of sensory information, memory, emotion, and thought into a unified field of experience. How this integration occurs, how subjective experience arises from objective neural processes, remains as mysterious as any quantum paradox. The development of quantum technologies is providing new tools for investigating consciousness, from quantum sensors that can detect minute changes in brain activity to quantum-inspired models of neural network behavior. While these tools won't definitively solve the consciousness puzzle, they're opening new avenues for exploring the relationship between mind and matter, between subjective experience and objective measurement. Whether consciousness operates through quantum effects or not, the quantum revolution is teaching us to be more comfortable with mystery, more accepting of fundamental uncertainty, and more appreciative of the profound questions that remain at the heart of existence. In this sense, quantum mechanics and contemplative inquiry are natural allies, both inviting us into deeper relationship with the unknown. Let's bring these abstract considerations back to something immediately practical in your daily life. While we can't prove that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, we can observe that quantum thinking, the ability to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously, navigate uncertainty with grace, and remain open to emergent solutions. These capacities are incredibly valuable in navigating the complexity of modern life. Consider how you approach difficult decisions. Classical thinking encourages us to gather information, analyze options, and choose the best alternative based on logical evaluation. Quantum thinking adds another dimension, the recognition that complex situations often involve variables we can't fully predict or control, and that the best solutions sometimes emerge through allowing uncertainty to remain open until new possibilities crystallize. This isn't magical thinking or wishful hoping. It's a sophisticated approach to decision-making that recognizes the limits of purely analytical approaches and incorporates intuitive, creative, and emergent ways of knowing. Just as quantum computers can find solutions that classical computers cannot by exploring multiple solution paths simultaneously, quantum-inspired thinking can help us find creative responses to life challenges that purely linear thinking might miss. Take a moment to reflect on times when you've experienced sudden insights or creative breakthroughs. Often these moments involve a period of not knowing, holding questions without forcing immediate answers, allowing multiple possibilities to coexist until something new emerges. This process shares some interesting parallels with quantum superposition and collapse, though we're speaking metaphorically rather than literally. Practices that enhance your capacity for quantum thinking include mindfulness meditation, which develops comfort with uncertainty and non-attachment to specific outcomes. Creative practices that involve improvisation and emergence. Contemplative inquiry that can hold paradox without immediately resolving it into simpler categories. Systems thinking that recognizes the interconnected, non-linear nature of complex problems. As you integrate these approaches into your daily life, you might notice that problems that seemed intractable from a purely analytical perspective begin to reveal new possibilities. Relationships that felt stuck in rigid patterns become more fluid and creative. Challenges that triggered anxiety and grasping for control become opportunities for practicing wisdom and adaptive response. This practical mysticism doesn't require belief in any particular quantum theory of consciousness. It simply involves applying quantum principles, comfort with uncertainty, appreciation for emergence, recognition of observer effects to your own experience, and decision-making processes. Whether or not your consciousness operates through literal quantum effects, you can certainly think and act in quantum-inspired ways. The quantum technologies emerging from laboratories are teaching us that the universe operates according to principles that challenge our most basic assumptions about objectivity, locality, and determinism. At the same time, research into consciousness and contemplative practice is revealing that subjective experience involves processes that mirror quantum principles in intriguing ways, even if the connections remain scientifically unproven. This convergence is creating what some researchers call a new paradigm, a framework for understanding reality that bridges the gap between objective science and subjective experience. Not by reducing consciousness to quantum mechanics or inflating quantum mechanics to explain consciousness, but by recognizing that both domains point toward a universe that's far more participatory, relational, and creative than classical worldviews suggested. As you contemplate this integration, notice how it might be influencing your own worldview and life approach. Are you becoming more comfortable with uncertainty and paradox, more aware of how your perspective influences what you observe, more appreciative of the role that consciousness plays in shaping experience, more interested in practices that develop wisdom rather than just accumulating information? The integration wave extends beyond individual transformation to encompass changes in how we approach education, healthcare, governance, and social organization. Educational systems are beginning to emphasize critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and systems awareness alongside traditional analytical skills. Healthcare is incorporating approaches that recognize the interconnection between mind, body, and environment. Governance is experimenting with more participatory, adaptive approaches that can respond to complexity and uncertainty. These changes reflect a broader cultural evolution toward what some call quantum literacy, the ability to think and act effectively in a world where uncertainty is fundamental, where observation influences reality, and where the most important solutions often emerge through collaboration between different ways of knowing. The quantum computers that began this conversation are ultimately tools in service of this larger transformation. They're not just faster calculators, they're teachers, showing us new ways of processing information, exploring possibility spaces, and navigating complexity. As we learn to work with these tools, we're also learning to think more quantum mechanically ourselves. In these final moments together, let's step back to the widest possible perspective and consider what the quantum revolution reveals about the nature of existence itself. At its deepest level, quantum mechanics suggests that reality is not a collection of separate objects interacting in empty space, but a dynamic web of relationships, possibilities, and conscious participation in an ongoing creative process. The quantum field that underlies all matter and energy is not static but continuously fluctuating, bringing virtual particles into existence and allowing them to dissolve back into potential. This quantum vacuum is not empty but alive with creative possibility, much like the aware space in which thoughts and experiences arise and dissolve in consciousness. The parallel is suggestive rather than literal, but it points toward a universe that's more alive, more creative, and more participatory than classical physics imagined. From this perspective, the development of quantum technologies represents humanity's growing capacity to participate consciously in the creative processes that have always been operating at the foundation of reality. We're not just building better computers, we're learning to dance with the quantum creativity that brings all forms into existence and allows them to evolve in response to new conditions and possibilities. As you rest into this larger view, notice how it transforms the meaning of your own existence. You're not just a separate individual navigating an external world. You're an expression of the universe's capacity for self-awareness, creativity, and conscious participation in its own evolution. The thoughts you think, the choices you make, the love you express, all of these are ways the universe experiences and creates itself through your particular form of consciousness. This isn't mystical speculation, but a natural extension of what quantum mechanics reveals about the participatory nature of reality. Just as quantum measurements play an active role in determining quantum outcomes, your conscious participation plays an active role in determining the quality and direction of your experience and, through countless subtle influences, the collective experience of life on Earth. The eternal dance between possibility and actuality, between the quantum field of pure potential and the manifest world of specific forms and experiences, is the same dance occurring in your consciousness right now. Each moment offers infinite possibilities, and through your attention, intention, and response, specific possibilities become actualized while others remain potential. Take a breath here and let yourself feel the profound mystery and creative potential of this moment. The quantum computers working around the world, the contemplative practitioners sitting in meditation, the scientists exploring the frontiers of knowledge, the artists creating new forms of beauty, all of these are expressions of the same underlying creative intelligence that's expressing itself as the universe, as consciousness, as the very experience you're having right now. The quantum decision that's shaping your future isn't separate from you. It is you, making choices moment by moment about how to participate in the ongoing creation of reality. Whether through developing quantum technologies, practicing contemplative wisdom, or simply bringing more awareness and compassion to your daily interactions, you're contributing to the collective awakening that the quantum revolution both reflects and catalyzes. This has been our exploration together, a journey through quantum possibilities that reveals the profound creativity and participatory nature of existence itself. Thank you for bringing your attention, your curiosity, and your consciousness to this investigation. Let yourself settle into this realization that's been building throughout our conversation, The quantum transformation isn't something that will happen to the world. It's something that's already happening through the world, through each choice and innovation and adaptation that's occurring moment by moment in laboratories, boardrooms, and quiet conversations like this one. Take a breath here and notice how this perspective shifts your relationship to the future. Instead of waiting for quantum technologies to arrive from somewhere else, you begin to recognize that you're already living inside the quantum transition. The decisions you make about learning, about career development, about how you engage with complex problems, these choices are part of the collective intelligence that's navigating humanity through this transformation. The quantum computers we've been discussing aren't separate from human consciousness. They're extensions of it. They represent our species' growing capacity to work with uncertainty, to explore multiple possibilities simultaneously, and to find optimal solutions within complex systems. As these technologies become more sophisticated, they're not replacing human intelligence, but amplifying it in ways that mirror how consciousness itself processes information. Consider how this changes the meaning of preparation for an uncertain future. Instead of trying to predict exactly which quantum applications will emerge when, you can develop the kinds of capacities that thrive in quantum-like environments: comfort with uncertainty, ability to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, skill at finding patterns within complexity. These aren't just useful for working with quantum technologies. They're essential capacities for navigating any complex, rapidly changing system. As our exploration approaches its conclusion, let's trace the subtle ways quantum thinking is already rippling through culture, education, and daily life. You may have noticed that conversations about complex topics are becoming more nuanced, more comfortable with paradox, becoming more nuanced, more comfortable with ambiguity, more willing to hold multiple viewpoints without immediately forcing resolution. This shift reflects a growing cultural capacity for quantum-like thinking, even in contexts far removed from quantum computing itself. Educational approaches are quietly evolving to emphasize systems thinking, pattern recognition, and comfort with open-ended questions. Students are learning to navigate complexity rather than simply memorizing predetermined answers. This pedagogical shift mirrors the quantum insight that observation and participation play active roles in determining outcomes, that knowledge emerges from interaction rather than passive absorption. In healthcare, there's a growing recognition that healing involves complex, non-linear processes that can't be reduced to simple cause and effect relationships. Practitioners are becoming more attuned to the subtle interconnections between physical, mental, and environmental factors, approaching treatment as an optimization problem rather than a mechanical repair process. Even in personal relationships, you might notice a subtle shift toward approaches that honor uncertainty and emergence rather than demanding immediate clarity and control. The quantum insight that measurement changes the system being measured translates, metaphorically speaking, to recognition that how we observe and interact with others influences the very qualities we're trying to understand. The quantum future isn't something that will arrive at your doorstep with a notification. It's already here, woven into the fabric of how we solve problems, secure information, and understand the nature of reality itself. The decision that's shaping your tomorrow is being made today, in laboratories and boardrooms, in policy discussions and investment choices, and perhaps most importantly, in moments of curiosity like this one. As you move forward from this exploration, remember that you're not a passive observer of the quantum transformation. You're an active participant in humanity's growing relationship with uncertainty, possibility, and the creative potential that exists at the intersection of consciousness and technology. Every choice you make to learn something new, to think more systemically, to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, contributes to the collective wisdom that will guide us through this extraordinary transition. The quantum computers working around the world right now are more than technological marvels. They're mirrors reflecting back to us the profound mystery of how information, consciousness, and reality dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand. They remind us that the universe is not a machine to be controlled, but a creative process to be participated in with wisdom, humility, and wonder. Rest well tonight knowing that you're living through one of the most remarkable transformations in human history. The quantum decision is yours to make, moment by moment, choice by choice, as we collectively write the next chapter of what it means to be conscious beings in a quantum universe. And if this journey has left you questioning the very nature of what we think we know about existence itself, you're ready to explore an even deeper mystery. What if everything we believe about the universe, from the smallest particles to the largest cosmic structures, is based on assumptions that are fundamentally wrong? That's exactly what we'll discover in What If Everything We Know About the Universe Is a Lie? Until then, may your dreams be filled with infinite possibilities,